I wanted to do a follow-up video on the recall for the Winnebago Revel. Just a few days ago, I had an appointment on the 19th. It took me 3.5 weeks just to get on the schedule. And I kept telling me, I'm leaving in October for a long trip. I want all this stuff done. So I got out there. They had to download all the instructions for on how to do the coolant and how to replace the screws on the vehicle. I had asked for that information from Winnebago and they refused to send it to me, saying they didn't want people to do this work on their own. So after about an hour, I was called into the office and they said, we can't do either one of these things. In order to flush and install new coolant in the heating system, you have to have a lift, which we don't have. The other thing is the screws for replacing the screws for the roof rack. Half of them are underneath the housing for the canopy, and we don't feel comfortable removing the entire housing for the canopy in order to do that. So very, very disappointed. They were very nice, but they couldn't do it, so I drove home, and it's now just a few days away from us heading off for Utah, and it's still not done. So a couple of things. Winnebago was nice enough on the phone, but they weren't nearly as helpful as I had hoped they would be. They did not send me the instructions for how to do both these things, which I could have then turned around and told the dealership, you need a lift in order to do the coolant, and you have to remove the housing in order to do the screws. It would have been simple to do. But Winnebago decided they didn't want to send me the information. The other part of this is that they just use regular screws for putting the roof rack onto the vehicle. I was very surprised about that. I was surprised they weren't just some little stainless steel screws, so there was no problem. But what they had done is that they had sent untreated screws, but the heads had been painted. So their solution to these, to the screws was just to paint the heads of them so that they would not rust. That part of it I am disappointed in as well. So it's now, again, just a couple of days. We're about to head out to the White Rim Trail in Canyons, Utah, and the recall work is still not done. I went back, I checked my emails, and I started in the first week of July trying to get my recall work done, and calls and specs, and just still hasn't happened. So when I get on the road, I'm gonna have to try to set up an appointment with yet another dealership. This was, I think, the 5th dealership that actually said they could do the work. So now I have to find a dealership who actually can do the work, who actually has a lift, and are capable of taking the housing off to replace the screws. So that's where we stand. I just wanted to give a follow-up video to the recall work, which is still not done. And I'll just let you know that there'll be some other videos, much more interesting videos, having to do with a trip out to Canyonlands and 4-wheel drive trip on the iconic White Rim Trail. So I look forward to sending some videos of that.